we're going to be talking about session 4 recap of, we just jumped off of Clubhouse talking about new realtor marketing and mindset. And today's topic was starting with 0 leads. And some of the things that we talked about was prospecting versus farming and prospecting 101, and how to really get started with having either 0 leads, and again, and really no sphere, and really tapping into your sphere if you have one. And then we talked about just marketing 101, and then really leveraging a lot of other resources without having a lot of budget. So what are some things that stood out for you, Jacob? Thanks for joining me today.
They don't know how to get started, or they're focused that they don't have a budget, or maybe they do have a budget and they don't know where to spend that money, or they're afraid to spend it in the wrong place. So today we talked about really finding a couple things that work for you and sticking with it and being consistent. I think it's the best takeaway that we could give anything that we talk about, is just try something, be consistent, and do. But for me, I didn't have a warm market here in Houston. I didn't have that sphere. I recently moved here in 2017 and then quickly moved away to Dallas. And, being in digital marketing, working on the computer all the time, I just I don't have a career is a social career like a realtor or anything would. So you kind of have to get outside of your comfort zone, and then you kind of find a different way to prospect and market. And so now one thing that we're focused on is in our everyday life, making sure we're connecting with people. If we go out for a coffee, we make sure it's a local mom and pop coffee shop that we can connect with them and tag them on Instagram and do a little review for them. And same thing with restaurants, is every day you're interacting with people. Grocery store, find a local Hispanic food store or Asian grocery store, and we interact with them. So just finding people in your local market, showing your face, just that kind of networking and supporting other businesses, because that in turn makes them want to support you.
I love that. And we talked about really starting, and it really is a progression of some of our sessions, and starting with, marketing 101, figuring out, setting some goals for yourself, so that, again, sticking to one or few things that are going to be working for you, and then figuring out who your audience is. And I know that when we talk about audiences, yes, your market is very important from a geographical perspective, but also thinking about from a primary to a secondary audience. Are you going after sellers or buyers, and what are your strengths are? And I know that I always talk about that I'm a listing agent usually, and that's my primary audience. And obviously I want to work with buyers as well, but because of my marketing strength, I have a very robust listing presentation where I even compare traditional agent versus modern agents. And I have techniques that a lot of other agents won't do, and, Facebook ads and different things to promote property. So I think that, figure out what type of, audience that you're going to be serving, and then figuring out geographically what area you want to start farming. And, it's really, the idea of farming is really about getting that soil ready, planting that seed and having it grow. And it's not an overnight game. It's going to take you a little bit of time getting to know that community. And if you're in not a market like mine, which is not as saturated, then, there's definitely a value in you going out into these communities and building a network, and, creating a Facebook page for that community, inviting all the people that are in it, hosting different events. Of course, we have to be sensitive. We have to understand COVID, but, if your area allows this, maybe start supporting some of the neighborhoods through small events, sponsoring events, and really being a community leader. And you could do that without having to put a lot of dollars into it, and having conversations and really kickstarting being providing value, always starting with value. And some of the other things that really stood out for me is, you want to have enough content for your online and offline, and have conversations so that it gives you really kind of a really good foundation. And this is the best way to start off doing this, is reaching out to other agents in your area, within your brokerage, and getting some written permission to leverage some of their listings and start doing some free marketing for them. And then also going to some showings, we call it fake or mock showings, where, you're kind of taking a lot of footage so that you can promote them on social media, not all at once, maybe something sporadically. So that's something where I would start. Anything you want to add?
No, exactly. The showings are a great way, because you can walk through and take pictures and do some video, and just make sure you've got written permission from those agents. Here, I know it's different everywhere in Texas. You even to take pictures for your buyer, if they're not able to be there, you do have to get permission. So just check in with the agents and the sellers, because it is their personal property and they might have a personal item hung up. So just be mindful of that. But doing those, and one thing my mentor even has me do is we go look at houses, and then she has me do a CMA on the house, you know, as practice when we get back. And it's a way to see value and walk through, and she'll ask me, hey, what would you have done here? And I know that's a different topic, but taking pictures and doing those things and posting them as you're doing, and you know, your activity is a great way not only to show people what you do, but with having to be like, look at this house for sale, you know, it's kind of letting them into your daily life and your expertise, and to warm up that audience as well. Is a great way to do it. Even networking with other real estate agents. You know, I know within our brokerage, we're allowed to work with other agents and sponsor their open houses. You know, some of them, they don't want to be there during the showing time, so they'll allow you to do them. And that's a great way to, if buyers are walking through and maybe they're not being represented, you could grab a client that way, you know. So, you know, there's all kinds of things that you can do. You got to think outside the box, be different, and let your personality shine through.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that came out of today was there's really is so much resources. And if anything, like, where are you going to start with, and which one are you going to go with? And one of the things that really stood out for me today was traditional marketing. In our past sessions, everyone was jumping to digital marketing, and obviously a lot of tools are free, it's wide reaching. But one of the things that I really liked about today was we really went into communities and writing handwritten notes, knocking on doors and having conversation. And I know Mark, our guest, talked about, if you're in a neighborhood where, if COVID, is you're restricted by COVID, then get a hockey stick and write a little note and pass it and add a little bit of humor, and really about revisiting those neighborhoods again and again and making phone calls. And I think it's that consistency and that repetitiveness as well, and sticking to something that's going to work for you. So I know I really like that. And another thing that really stood out for me is your digital footprint is so important in a way that, some of the things we touched upon last time in terms of Google My Business and making sure you're on a map perspective that you're on it. And also you're on social media, starting to kind of, be present in some of the things that are in your community, whether it's a coffee shop or restaurants or any other, even just everyday people that are commenting, like their post, comment, and show support from that perspective. And that's a way of prospecting as well. And it's really prospecting to give people an idea. It's about generating these leads and attracting clients through a way of outreach and these outbound communication. And there's a passive way to do it, and there's an active way to do it. And farming is at a larger scale. It's not so much before the action, but it's about finding that area. And I think understanding the difference and this type of tactics you want to take on is very crucial. And the most important that we talked about today too is having that key message and making sure that key message is very consistent throughout all of your platform, whether you're talking to people in person or whether it's through digital. Those are some of the things that stood out for me today.
Yeah, and one thing with the traditional marketing that I'm starting to find kind of interesting is, even in my digital marketing businesses, we send something to our clients every quarter. So that way there's that physical touch, because we're in such a social digital society that we don't really have physical products. Sometimes there's a lot of digital products, and a lot of the services that I provide with digital marketing is all, there is not a tangible product, right? And so interesting hearing a few stories from other realtors, some things that they do. And I think we still leverage some of those traditional things. And you don't have to do door knocking and cold calling if you don't want to, but, handwritten notes to sellers in a neighborhood asking, have they ever thought about selling? Some people have lived there 20 years and maybe approaching retirement. And that's a great way to pad their retirement. And, they never thought that they had $200,000 in equity in their house. So finding some of those ways to keep that digital touch, I think will cause you to stand out among other realtors that are just slap up a sign through a Facebook ad, keep you on the phone, email and text. You can find a way to show that you're willing to take time out of your day to handwrite a note and to touch base with them. And two, you have to also think too, and like certain communities here, some of the communities are older. And I think about like my grandma who has a house that might be downsizing. She's not big on social media. She's not going to go to social media to find her clients. So having a well-diversified marketing plan, I think is critical. I think if you're a person that just says, I'm only going to do YouTube or I'm only going to do Facebook, you might find success for a short period of time. But when that trend changes in the marketing and how people get clients, I think you're going to get left behind. So it's great, when Lou came up on stage, she talked about having 3 or 4 different things and doing it well. And I think that's 3 or 4 different things. That way, when one thing is not working or bringing in those clients, your pipeline is not dry or empty, right? You got other things that are feeding into that pipeline of sales and leads. And so I think it's just be diversified. Yes, you want to start out with 1 or 2 things maybe until you get your feet wet, then add something else. But be diversified in what you do too. And part of being networked with the community and then having your digital aspect as well. I think you want both worlds. You want that kind of physical touch and that digital touch as well.
Absolutely. And I wanted to touch upon our last topic that we jumped into was your sphere of influence, your SOI, and the beauty of SOIs. And I know that some people like yourselves who relocated don't have quite of a sphere within the market that you're serving. But how do you start with the people that you have and you've known? And people often think about people, coworkers, and think about all the people you touch, whether it's your family, friends, people you might have worked with, volunteered with years ago, went to school with, and maybe you might not have them on Facebook or WhatsApp, and maybe this is the moment where you want to rekindle those relationships. And instead of jumping readily quickly into a conversation that you're a realtor, maybe rebuild those relationship back, and it's really about that long-term conversation. And I really like that. Really, your sphere of influence, they're warm leads. They already know you. And I love about the beauty part is that there's that know, like, and trust factor. And that trust is a key element in any relationship. And if you have it with these people through all these years of being in different circumstances, building these relationships, and this is a key relationship that you want to kind of go back to now that you're doing business, because all of these people, a lot of them might be looking for places to relocate, buy, move, depending on their circumstances, and you want to be their realtor, and they might genuinely not know that you're a realtor, and they may work with you because they already know you and trust you. So a couple of ways you could do that is obviously, going into your phone, meeting with people, going to coffee and really getting to know people again, having conversation over the phone, video, Zoom calls. And then the best part is like LinkedIn and Facebook. And we're in a society where people love to just take. And I think we need to get back into giving more. And that part is maybe something like LinkedIn and Facebook. Start giving people endorsements and recommendations on LinkedIn. So in a way that it sparks that conversation, that there's a sense of appreciation as well on that end of that relationship. But I know that that's one of the last things that we talked about. Anything that you want to add before you wrap this up?
No, I think we touched on everything, but it's just about doing and getting out there and trying something. There's a lot of people, and it's not just in real estate. A lot of people, when they're learning something or want to start a business or want to move forward with something, they try to learn everything they can, thinking that's going to pad them from failing or make their success a little bit more. But some of the most successful people in life are just people that just did, and then they fixed things as they went along and reevaluated. I think that is the key, is being adaptable, learning to reevaluate, making sure what you're doing in marketing is measurable, and that you can find out what your rate of return is. And even if you don't understand all those, and all those acronyms, it is pretty simple. If you're paying for something or you're putting activity, which money is, or time is money. So, even your activity, make sure you're measuring and finding a way to track how these people are coming in, and leveraging your CRM, whatever your brokerage provides you, or if you're not a realtor, ask what your brokerage provides for CRM, or find a very powerful tool that can have one core place for all of your clients and activity. And, so I think that is the most important thing. Just do and find a way to measure your activity so you can improve. And there's no such thing as failure. Failure is not doing. So if you're not willing to do or do anything, then you failed. But if something wasn't successful, then you reevaluate and move on. So
I love that. I love that. And the last thing I want to add is, while you're doing all of that, just stay consistent and keep going until you start seeing results, and then do more of it. So to end off, thank you everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, Jacob, just right after our Clubhouse conversation. I'm looking forward to our next one, which our topic is the transactional process. Because if we're not going to be able to have the right information to do the job, then what's the point of generating all these leads and working with our clients? So I'm looking forward to it. See you next time on Sundays at 8 p.m. At Eastern time and 7 p.m. Central time. Take care, Jacob. Have a good night.
bye.